Coming up today, President Park Geun-hye is set to meet with the floor leaders and chief policymakers of Korea's ruling and opposition parties. It's the first such meeting since the ruling party suffered a crushing defeat in last month's general election. Korea's central bank has held its key rate steady at 1.5% for the 11th straight month in May. Plus, outgoing Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff maintains her innocence and calls the Senate's decision to impeach her a coup. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Friday the 13th of May. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon, President Park Geun-hye will meet with the new floor leaders of Korea's three main political parties this afternoon in a renewed attempt to seek legislative cooperation from the incoming 20th National Assembly. But will the meeting bring about any tangible results? Jim Young-gil starts us off.
President Park Geun-hye hopes the occasion will offer an opportunity for the government and the parties to expand communication and prioritize the will of the people. Topping the agenda will be a discussion on how to stabilize the people's livelihoods and revitalize the economy. The current stalemate in inter-Korean relations and North Korea's nuclear program will likely be dealt with, as well as how to deepen government-legislature cooperation on state affairs. However, the opposition parties, the Minju Party of Korea and the People's Party, have expressed little hope of any significant breakthroughs, especially if the president only tries to seek cooperation for bills she is interested in. The opposition bloc plans to urge her to fully embrace public sentiment and open up communication. The meeting, the first of its kind since last month's general election, will take place at the presidential office of Cheongwadae on Friday afternoon. Jong Jin-seok, the floor leader of the ruling Saenuri Party, and his counterparts from the Minju Party Woo Sang-ho and the People's Party Park Ji-won will attend the meeting along with their chief policymakers. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
The leaders of South Korea and Mongolia will hold summit talks in Seoul next Thursday. The presidential office of Cheongwadae says President Park Geun-hye will sit down with Mongolian President Sakyegen Egbidok during his three-day visit to Korea. The two leaders will discuss ways to enhance economic cooperation, expand ODA, official development assistance, as well as people-to-people exchanges. Seoul and Ulaanbaatar established diplomatic ties back in 1990. Around 30,000 Mongolians currently reside in Korea. Korea's central bank has held its key rate steady at a record low of 1.5% for the 11th consecutive month. The decision comes amid mounting financial market stress as the government's corporate restructuring drive picks up ahead of steam. Shin Se-min reports.
The Bank of Korea kept its key rate unchanged at a record low of 1.5% for the 11th straight month in May. The central bank appears to be leaving its options open after a board reshuffle late last month. Gloomy export figures and slowing domestic demand also pressured the Bank of Korea to leave its key rate as is. Korea's outbound shipments have been on a downward streak, falling over 11% in April from a year earlier and continuing their more than a year-long downslide. Even so, consumer and business sentiment showed signs of rebounding in the past month, although market watchers say the second quarter figures should be closely monitored. Given all of that, the central bank appears to have decided to continue its wait-and-see approach. Central Bank Governor Lee Ju-yeol is still under pressure to take action on monetary and fiscal policy to facilitate a government-led corporate restructuring scheme. However, there are still lingering market expectations for an additional rate cut given the slowing economy and uncertainties about the government restructuring plan. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The government held a meeting of high-level officials on this Friday on ways to boost the country's ICT sector. The meeting in Seoul came a day after President Park Geun-hye chaired Korea's first strategic meeting for science and technology. During Friday's meeting, led by Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-an, 6 items, including the so-called K-ICT Strategy 2016 agenda, were deliberated and voted upon. They also revised Korea's previous ICT strategy to include artificial intelligence and virtual reality technology. The Prime Minister says the country will aim to increase Korea's ICT export volume to $210 billion by the year 2020. He cited the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics as an opportunity to promote Korea's advanced ICT exports. It's been more than 2 weeks since the UN Security Council began considering a press statement condemning North Korea's test of a mid-range ballistic missile last month. The latest comment out of Russia adds weight to speculation that it is Moscow holding up the process. Connie Kim reports.
Russia has been pressuring North Korea to refrain military activity and has called on South Korea and the U.S. to do the same as it holds up adoption of a UN Security Council press statement condemning North Korea's launch of mid-range ballistic missiles last month. The statement has been delayed for more than 2 weeks. Speaking at a regular briefing on Thursday, Russia's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said Moscow supports the current UN sanctions against North Korea for its nuclear missile launches. She added all related nations should avoid aggravating tensions on the Korean peninsula and instead follow a path to a political and diplomatic resolution. Her comments add weight to the growing speculation that Russia wants to add content to the UN statement that specifically calls for Seoul and Washington to refrain from military action, namely its annual joint military drills. Russia's ambassador to the UN, Vitaly Churkin, had previously said Moscow proposed the same, leading to assumptions that Russia is trying to link North Korea's provocations to the military exercises between South Korea and the U.S. Seoul, however, dismissed the speculation on Thursday, saying the delay with the UN statement has nothing to do with the drills. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has made his first public appearance since the Workers' Party Congress came to a close earlier this week. The state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Friday that Kim toured a machine equipment exhibition hall that was constructed as part of celebrations for the event. Kim, who was elected party chairman at the Congress, was joined by Kim Young-nam, Hwang Byung-seo and Choi Ryong-hae, powerful figures within the party's central leadership. The report did not elaborate on when Kim made the inspection or where the exhibition hall is located. Experts say his first public outing was aimed to show North Korea's push to revitalize its economy, in line with plans laid out by Kim during the Congress. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon will visit South Korea and Japan this month to attend some international conferences. Ban's spokesman says the UN chief will visit Korea's southern resort island of Jeju on May 25th for a regional multilateral dialogue promoting peace and prosperity in East Asia that is known as the Jeju Forum. Then he will travel to Japan on May 27th for the G7 summit before coming back to Korea on May 30th for the UN Department of Public Information and Non-Governmental Organization conference in the southeastern city of Gyeongju. Now, Ban's visit to Korea, his first in about a year, comes after the ruling Saenuri Party's crushing defeat in last month's general elections. The Secretary-General has been in the spotlight as many speculate he may run for president in 2017 as his second 5-year term as UN chief ends this year. Now, battling a recession, corruption, mass protests and the Zika virus. The last thing Brazil needed was a political crisis, but its president has now been kicked out of office to face an impeachment trial. It leaves the new government facing accusations of a coup just a few months before hosting the Olympic Games. Park Jong-hong reports.
The impeachment process against the disgraced Brazilian leader is now in full swing. In the 81-member Senate, 55 voted to put President Dilma Rousseff on trial for allegedly manipulating finances to disguise a ballooning public deficit and the run-up to her re-election in 2014. This move has immediately suspended the authority of Brazil's first female president, and with the way things are going, observers say it looks likely to put an end to more than 13 years of rule by the left-wing Workers' Party. From now on, a special committee will have in-depth meetings and debates and put the matter to a plenary vote. When 2/3 vote in favor, the impeachment will become final. Although the process can last up to 180 days, the Senate says it will try to wrap it up by September. Observers say things couldn't be any worse for the country preparing to host the Rio Olympics in August, especially with the Zika virus still a cause of concern. Rousseff has promised to fight her impeachment by all legal means, saying it was a, quote, coup and a farce, denying she had committed any crimes. Vice President Michel Temer is now the acting head of state and has already named a cabinet. Park Jong-un, Arirang News.
The Republican Party's presumptive presidential candidate, Donald Trump, has stepped up his campaign to win over skeptics within the GOP. On Thursday, Trump met with one of them, Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
I was very encouraged with what I heard from Donald Trump today. I do believe that we are now planting the seeds to get ourselves unified, to bridge the gaps and differences.
In a joint statement following their talks, Trump and Ryan said they were honest about their differences, recognized that many important areas of common ground that they share, and that their discussions will continue. Although withholding his endorsement, Ryan stressed that his primary goals were uniting the party and defeating Hillary Clinton in November. Now, this is a major shift from last week when Ryan announced he was not ready to support Trump. Despite his controversial statements and stances, Trump is the last man standing on the Republican side, earning more votes than any other GOP candidate in history. The White House says U.S. President Barack Obama's upcoming visit to Hiroshima aims to commemorate the Japanese and all the innocents who died in the August 1945 bombing, and that includes the Korean victims. Asian Affairs spokesman Miles Kaggins says the May 27th visit is meant to honor the memory of all innocents lost in World War II. The atomic bombs are believed to have killed some 20,000 Koreans in Hiroshima and 10,000 in Nagasaki, of the more than 220,000 victims overall. The White House had previously announced that Obama would pay tribute to the victims, but not offer an apology. Now, 1 in 3 companies worldwide see corruption as a big threat to their business. According to the World Bank Group's enterprise surveys, 33% of over 130,000 firms across 135 countries identified corruption as a major constraint to their business operations. The proportion was much higher in the Middle East and North Africa at 53%, but considerably lower in high-income OECD nations at just 11%. The surveys also showed that almost a fifth of firms are expected to give gifts to public officials to, quote, get things done. Global mobile messaging app Line, founded by Korean internet giant Naver, has taken the top spot in Google Play's top-grossing apps list. According to data collected by App Annie from the first quarter of 2012 to the first quarter of 2016, Line dominated the top 3 spots by revenue, with the Line app followed by Line Play and Line Manga. Korea's KakaoTalk came in 5th on the list. By number of downloads, the Line Messenger app came in 7th. The list was topped by Facebook, as you can probably imagine, WhatsApp Messenger and Facebook Messenger. According to the report, total global revenues increased by over 35 times and downloads by nearly 4 times in the first 3 months of this year compared to the same period in 2012. Well, those are stories we've been following on this Friday afternoon here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com/news and our smartphone application. Just search for Arirang TV in your app store. Have a great weekend and stay tuned to Arirang TV. Goodbye.